So firstly, I mean, of course, it's all rooted in childhood. Everything stems from childhood, right? With the, like, obviously, like, we're a bunch of fucking, excuse my language, but a bunch of people walking around. Majority of us are walking around emotionally underdeveloped, emotionally immature, like 8-year-olds in 32, 35, 38, 42, 60-year-old bodies. No joke, but I digress. So yeah, obviously childhood is what causes this enmeshment. So let's say, for example, you grow up in a narcissist, and I use that term loosely, narcissist codependent household. Let's say your father was completely didn't take responsibility for himself, for his emotions, maybe had some sort of dependency on a substance, did what he wanted, didn't take other people's feelings into consideration, had zero empathy for his household, his child, his wife, his children, all that other stuff. But thought that because he was providing, he was being emotionally, or just completely like emotionally avoidant. Let's say that, you know. And let's say your mom was codependent, and she, you know, completely enabled him. She always tried to cover for him. You know, when he did something that wasn't appropriate, you know, he said inappropriate things to you. You talked about your weight, talked about your this or that, and just demeaned you, put you down, whatever it may have been. Because we have all that kind of crap going on in our households growing up. It is what it is, right? Let's say you grew up in that household. Because those boundaries of self don't exist, it's possible that you may then become either a narcissist, loosely used, or codependent as well, who there also lacks their own self, their own sense of self, their own sense of boundaries, and what's okay and not okay for them, and not feeling empowered enough to be able to maintain, to hold those boundaries, right? Or let's say you grew up with a completely codependent household, where your parents, you know, lived vicariously through you. You know, they didn't respect what you wanted for your life. Oh no, this is what you're gonna do, and you know, they did everything for you, whatever it may be. Or let's say you had an emotionally underdeveloped parent who sought comfort from you, came to you with their adult problems, talking about their life and shit, and you have no idea what they're talking about. Like, Mom, I'm only 10. I have no idea what you're talking about, right? And those parents themselves maybe came from a codependent, or they're a child of alcoholics, or a drug addict, and they have no sense of boundaries themselves. They don't know when to say no. So even in their dynamic, in their relationships, they're, let's say, a doormat, or a pushover, or just be doing too much. Who knows? And so they come and they're looking for comfort from the child. Pepper, stop the noise. Looking for, you know, that type of that comfort and that love from their children, right? Without boundaries. And also on top of that, they don't respect your boundaries. So as a child, you grew up, your mom and dad just walking into the bathroom, you know, making all kinds of comments. You know, who knows? Just not respecting your boundaries, not respecting your physical boundaries, your body boundaries, right? And that happens. Listen, it ain't cute. Or, for example, a single parent household, and I only have a couple more examples. Single parent household. I came from a single parent household. And your child, you know, you may have been a parentified child. I was the eldest, I'm the daughter. I helped my mom out a lot. You know, my mom came from I would say pretty codependent type household, and I think generationally codependency was something that was in a lot of my feminine lineage. Just culturally, it's something that, like I've said it before, like I think a lot of Haitian women are taught to be codependent, and so, you know, I was a parentified kid. I helped my mom out a lot when it came to certain things, And I also did see that, you know, when she had a boyfriend, she was a little bit happier. When she didn't, she wasn't so much happy. And so I kind of also did that, like that sort of equating, oh, I need to be in, you know, that relationship, or having a boyfriend or having a man makes you happy, and not having a better sense of my own happiness, and coming that happiness and joy comes from within me, right? Or to the most extreme, emotionally or physically abusive childhoods, right? Where the children never believe that they don't have to take abuse. Some of us, I would, you know, have had some really traumatic, huge PTSD type childhoods, you know, where we either seeing a parent being abused, or we are being abused physically, sexually, emotionally, verbally, and it's an insistent. And, you know, it's almost as a means of escaping that we find a partner and we enmesh as quickly as possible, because we don't really know. The examples that we have, the only examples of adult relationships that we have are in our childhood. So we emulate those, we copy those, we copycat that type of stuff. That's all we know. Unless you've had a really healthy, solid, beautiful, you know, reciprocal relationships in your childhood, examples, for example, you know, to be able to copy, then what you see is what you get, and that's what you continue to relive, and you cycle through it until you realize, wait, this is completely dysfunctional. This is not the fucking life I want. I want to be different. I want to do better. And it's possible. I mean, consciously, awareness, you know, consciously making the effort to be aware of the dysfunction that exists in your childhood, and making a decision to change it is possible, 100%. And just back to the subject of, you know, just being some children who have to sustain major childhood abuse. A lot of these kids are so neglected and stifled that they learn to be careful and watchful before they can even talk, you know. And are so consumed with the well-being and the emotional state of the adults around them versus their own, that they themselves, they build no sense of self. There's no sense of pepper. They build no sense of self-awareness, of self, because they're so concerned with externally validating and externally being validated, and so consumed with whether my mom is going to be angry or whether my dad's going to be angry or happy. So let me do what's going to make my dad happy so that he doesn't beat me. Or let me do what makes my mom okay, and making sure that everybody else is okay. Even with men, for example, if men have a mom, for example, that's completely enmeshed, they can grow up to be super emotionally avoidant, because in their entire lives, their entire childhoods have been consumed with being the caregiver of an adult, where the roles are completely reversed and dysfunctional. Whew, right? So many examples. And the bottom line is the absence of boundaries and a lack of permission to be self-governed, and your own, and the importance of one's own sovereignty is what the basis of it all is. Not knowing that boundaries are important and what they are, like what they are, and how you, even as a little human being, are important enough to maintain, to have, to say no, to not sit on that uncle's lap if you don't want to not go and lay down next to your dad if you don't want to not listen to your mom's boyfriend drama if you don't want to. You have that right. You had that right as a child, and if ain't nobody told you, I'm telling you right now, and I'm giving you permission to reconcile all that shit and move forward and to get it right from here on out, right? So how do we fix it? Firstly, let's say go back to the first one, neglecting other relationships because of a preoccupation, yada, yada, yada. You fix that shit by really, truly valuing the people who are outside of the relationship that you are so consumed with, those people more. investing in those relationships. I did that when I was in my whole deciding that I wanted to kill the codependency in my life. I made the decision to really truly invest in my friendships, to be consistent in my responses, to be there for my friends, to really nurture those relationships, those sisterhoods. Because and even my immediate families, even in that dynamic, I found it healing to say that, you know what, I'm gonna set this boundary. It's important that I contact the people that love me. I'm so loved, and I don't need to be consumed by this relationship. I have so many other people around that I can invest in, that I'm gonna do that. So small boundaries, right? Second one, your happiness and contentment relies on your relationships. Find your happy. Find your happy. What makes you happy? What makes Diana happy is going to the beach at 6 o'clock in the morning. Apparently, because I did that today. Oh, that's what I forgot to tell you guys too. I went to the beach, I watched the sunrise, and I jumped in the water. The water was beautiful. It was a wonderful thing. Finding my happy, being with my kids, gardening, watching my dog eat my plants and being mischievous, because she just does that stuff. Taking pictures. I love photography. Talking about this stuff, doing this YouTube thing, finding my happy, finding your happy. It's essential. It's essential because what it does, it delineates the self. And that's really that's the root of enmeshment, that lack of delineation of the self. And so that's what you want to do, is you want to find yourself, come to you, and find your happy, find your joy. Third thing, your self-esteem is contingent upon this relationship. And it also kind of goes with your self-esteem. It's an understanding that you have an innate value, an innate worth. You were born with it. Period. Ain't no changing it. Can't nobody take it away from you. No one can shame you out of it. No one can guilt you out of it. No one can beat it out of you. No one can dehumanize you to the point of you not being worthy and full of value. Just priceless. Invaluable, actually, is what you really are. You're priceless. You are so worthy. You're so enough. Born enough. It sounds so cliche, but it's real. You are enough just because. Just like I said, you are a fractal of consciousness. You're an aspect of consciousness. You got the God that permeates all things, that lives in all things, that makes everything is in you. Source is in you. That is it. And so and when you believe those things and you affirm those things within yourself, you speak those things, invest in yourself, build the things that build self-esteem for me. Telling myself that I'm beautiful, telling myself that I'm worthy, that I'm enough, that I'm abundant, walking in that, being around people that also reflect that to me, right? Because as you raise your vibration, people around, the things that come into your reality also will be a reflection of what's going on within you. So within, so without. As within, so without. So as above, so below. It's the same concept. Just like, the Lord's Prayer, as above, so below. That's all it's just going. Your reality is created by what your inner world is. So your self-esteem is super important. Have a self-concept. To take time for yourself, ground, meditate, build up a spiritual practice so that you can continue to delineate yourself, because in childhood you had a blurry, if you could imagine me just being like a little blurry outlined person with no sense of boundaries or anything. So what the process of the healing is really starting to really delineate and sharpen your edges, right? So that you can really know who you are, know yourself, what things make you tick, what you love, and that builds self-esteem. Validating yourself, being passionate, finding your passion, finding the things that you love to do. If it's taking pictures, if it's writing, if it's art, if it's speaking, if it's putting your hands in some dirt and taking care of plants, if it's serving other people, find that. Fourth thing, conflict arises, you feel extreme anxiety. First of all, you can never be abandoned. Source lives within you. There's no separation. So guess what? That anxiety, that fear of separation, of abandonment, it's a lie, it's a distortion. Like, period. The hum that's in your fingertips when you sit and you ground, that's source. That's God. There's no separating yourself from that. And so because of that abandonment that we oftentimes fear, the rejection that we oftentimes fear when we get into conflict with people, Listen, if the person loves you, they want to be in your life. Period. They want resolution with you. They won't leave. It comes from also our attachment wounds as children. When we have, emotionally unavailable parents, and we don't feel secure when we're children, it happens that we fear that same feeling. But what you have to do is live in the present and not think about that past stuff, right? Because all of the traumas, the things that we relive are all from past traumas. So what we really have to try to do is know that we have to reprogram our brains to know that this is a different time, this is a different moment. So what happened to us back then is not going to happen to us now. And that's where we can kind of, separate ourselves from this fear and this anxiety of conflict. Because conflict is healthy. You have to talk things out. You have to be vulnerable. You have to be transparent. And if the person wants you and they love you and God has made this person for you, they will stay. Trust me. 100%. And thank God, the ones that ain't for you, be out. Be gone. Out. Dip. And then what's the final one? The loneliness thing. Listen, like I said, same thing, goes hand in hand. You can never be really alone because you got yourself. You're the person when you were here in the womb. You were in the womb. Sorry, I had my low power mode. I gotta be quick before my battery dies. You were in the womb with yourself. You sit with yourself. You spend the most time with yourself. I said it during my quarantine video. You gotta sit with yourself. All these people that can't always be out on the street. People are upset about this quarantine thing because people are uncomfortable with sitting with themselves. Because when you sit with yourself, you got to address your shit. You got to sit with the loneliness. You got to sit with the thoughts, the anxieties, the fears, all that stuff. But you have to build a relationship with yourself. It's vital. Period. That's why we get enmeshed. Because we don't want to worry about ourselves. We're worrying about other people and how he feeling and how she feeling and what they're doing instead of focusing on ourselves. Completely not knowing who we are, what we want, how we feel, what's going on inside of us. Like, don't be worried about other people. Worry about you. How you doing? What happened with you today? Are you stressed out? Are you anxious? Did that person cuss you out and made you so upset? Are you feeling heartbroken and sad? Are you grieving? But if you're focused on other people and their dysfunction and their addictions and all that other shit, you don't know what's going on with you. So you're not in a place where you can do any sort of self-evaluation when you're focused on other people. And guess what? Sometimes it's intentional, but the reality is you got to sit with yourself. And finally, what was the number 6? Pepper, please. And just this thing of being in symbiosis. So if they're upset, I'm upset. If they're happy, I'm happy. No, you got to maintain your frequency. That's your job. Holding your home frequency and keeping yourself in a place where you're happy or you're content. That's you. Where you have this equanimity that exists, where you maintain your peace. You maintain your joy, your bliss, whatever it is, your home frequency, wherever your home frequency is. And that you don't lower your vibration if the partner that you're with is upset. That you maintain your vibration and you have them come and rise up to where you're at. Tell them I'm here and I'm holding space for you until you get up here with me. If you're upset, I'll give you space. I love you. I will hold space for you when you come back. And when you feel like you want to raise yourself up again, I'm here and let's talk. If you need an eye, an ear, some eyes to watch you, some ears to listen, I'm here, I'll talk. But I'm not going to lower my vibration for you. My vibration, how I feel on the inside, is of the utmost importance. I listen to a lot of Abraham Hicks speeches and so forth. And the trick of all of this law of attraction stuff that has become mainstream is your feelings. It's how you feel. It's your home frequency. It's your inner vibration. It's where you're at. So you have to be so concerned and consumed with how you feel, how happy you are, that nothing around you can disturb that. Period. You don't have to be sad with somebody to really have empathy and to raise them up to that, right? But then also you don't want to be dismissive. Like, oh, well, you'll be okay. It's not that big of a deal. No, you want to hold space for the person and listen to them and understand, have empathy, because, we're human. The things that one human being, all we are is a couple of decisions away from whatever that person is going through. Really, that's the truth of the matter. And yeah, that's basically it. So small boundaries, reconnecting with yourself, with others, investing and nurturing your friendships and investing and nurturing yourself. it's cliche, self-love, but really just taking time, because it's more fine-tuned and nuanced than just like getting your manicure. And I say it all the time, but it's really sitting through your darkness too. Sitting through the moments of shadow and your sadness, is your times of sadness, and know that those emotions, they're emotions, and they're indicators of what we're going through, and they show up to tell us something about what's happening in our reality, what we have to change, where we have to improve, what we have to fix, right? But ultimately, you got to sit with it. So yeah, that's basically it. Sit with it. And you know what? The reality is to seek some professional help if you need it. Get a life coach, get a therapist, whatever you need, you know. It's a process and it's a work, but let's work on just, you know, not being enmeshed and all caught up with all this crap, and, you know, learning about ourselves and coming to us, right? Coming back to me. That's the whole thing. That's the whole goal. That's what it's all about. So I thank you so much for watching. Please like, subscribe, share. Blessings to you. Have a great, great day, great morning. Hope it's productive and just full of love and happiness and joy and all that good stuff.